why have the feds been paying for grants to dress our police like this? I saw one of the Chicago deputy chiefs last night on Chicago television. I was watching a clip online, and he said, yeah, this is basically, we've got a war going, and this is to intimidate people, and we're now going to put basically most of our officers in SWAT uniforms to be roving around. When this is the city, of course, with a complete gun ban, where they spend most of their police resources harassing law-abiding citizens, and so then they use the crime rate increasing as a pretext to now turn Darth Vader-festooned paramilitaries loose on the population. They're preparing us for something. We see the massive buildup. It's just like you can tell when a war is about to start because of troop movements and the propaganda that prepares populations for it. Well, we've been seeing this huge 20-year buildup that's now reaching a crescendo. Now, with a finale, kind of like when you're watching fireworks, you see a big spectacular display and you think, that must be the finale. But then it gets even bigger. That must be the finale. And then, oh my God, that must be the finale. Why is the establishment doing this? My point about the finale is I don't know when they're going to drop the hammer and ever go with a hot martial law and mass roundups like we saw in Nazi Germany, or when the Russians would roll into another neighboring republic. I don't know if we're going to see a hot takeover, but we're certainly seeing an incremental one. But the good news is, again, this is not Germany, this is not Russia. We have a history of liberty and freedom. We have the history of the Second Amendment. And there is an awakening across the board, the likes of which no one has ever seen. And when I went on air on 9/11, after months of saying they're going to attack the World Trade Center, they're going to blame it on their CIA asset, bin Laden, created by the CIA. I could see the whole preparation for that. I went on air. A lot of people got mad and upset at me. But I knew that I had to put the greater good ahead of, quote, my own radio career. And I lost about a third of the stations I was on. The network was getting death threats. They were saying, God, you got to say this. And I said, yeah. It was the first and only time they ever came to me and said, are you sure you want to do this? And other talk show hosts on the network who now later claim they're the fathers of 9/11 truth. And it's not about that, but it's about them claiming they were there first. We're like, I think it's bad that he's saying that on their own shows. So I had to be there first. I had to be the trailblazer. I had to inject that truth and information out to the public, knowing and having the faith that it would grow and that it would expand. And I did that because I knew that if we didn't have a fundamental awakening to the Hegelian dialectic of problem, reaction, solution, the cold-blooded establishment was going to continue to stage event after event after event and tighten up the control, and that my children and that their children and that your children would have absolutely no future and no chance at freedom and liberty. And I'd analyze the current elite that we have and had at the time and realize that they were so psychopathic, so wicked, so evil for evil's sake, and just burning with a desire for power, that they were going to give us no quarter. They were never going to stop. And I'd already gotten into fighting the New World Order. And I already knew my name was on the list. And I already knew that I had to go all the way. And that's my next message to everybody here. There's a lot of talk show hosts, a lot of websites, and a lot of people who cower and fear. And they say there's spies everywhere, there's agents everywhere, they're going to get you, they're going to come get you. If they had 1 million agents, that's against 300 million people. And they don't have 1 million agents. They've got, they're actually spying and running around. And let them spy. Let them know that we know they're criminals. Let them know that we know that they're dirty individuals who are supporting terrorists. Let them know that when we take this country back, they're the ones that are going to get arrested for treason. They're the ones that are going to be in front of Congress. They wear black uniforms and black masks and say they're spying on you now and say they're building FEMA camps to scare you. It's for you. And by for you, people out there watching on the internet later, watching this speech, understand, for you that serve the system, for you that know where the skeletons are buried, for you that are middle class. This system that they have designed is around and is designed for attacking the general public and attacking people that have served them. We don't have a choice. All of us have to say no to these criminals. All of us have to say that radical Islamic fundamentalism was created by the British and the United States to take over the Middle East. That was official U.S. government policy. And you used them to attack the Serbs. And you used them to attack the Iranians. I mean, it's so amazing to me. I know I talk a lot about this on the radio. You probably heard me talk about it ad nauseum. That they continue to say that Iran is Al-Qaeda, well, they're Shia. And then for 4 years, Bush has publicly been funding real Wahhabi groups headed up by the supposed number 3 of Al-Qaeda. One day he's bad, next day he's our boy, next day they report they've killed him while he's running attacks against our enemy, Iran. Okay, quote, our enemy, globalist enemy. I have that psychology that, I'm with this, that we're with this government. This is not our government. We have to deprogram ourselves. I have to every day deprogram myself. And then they're blowing up mosques, blowing up police stations, blowing up schools. It's on a weekly basis, and Iran just sits there and goes, oh, we're going to sue you in international court. Your Al-Qaeda groups blew more stuff up. Meanwhile, you tune into Rush Limbaugh, a fake conservative, there to make conservatives go to sleep and not know what's happening. He's talking about Iran launching more Al-Qaeda attacks. And John McCain's talking about Iran launching more Al-Qaeda attacks. These people are liars. And all we have to do is go out and show the public that they're liars and criminals and crooks. And as things get worse and worse, they won't be able to grandstand and get the public to go along with their next phase. We can actually take the fact that they destroyed everything and destroyed the dollar and screwed up the economy and use that against them. Because they deserve to have that used against them instead of these bastards always grandstanding as the saviors. So in closing, just think about how far we've come in almost 7 years now. Think about how, if you told somebody 6.5 years ago that 9/11 was an inside job, everybody kind of instinctively would go, I've had a bad feeling, it's kind of weird, but why? But still, you were seen as somewhat of a kook. And then 3 years after, when they did polls, the majority of Americans believed they were being lied to. A huge minority believed it was an inside job. That's when a pollster's calling you on the phone. They've done studies showing that people tend to go with the establishment line in a poll. So if 4 years ago 36% said we believe the government did it, probably double that. I've talked to a lot of pollsters. I've conducted polls. I've paid for them with Zogby and others. And it's more like 60 plus 70% believe it's an inside job. And that was 4 years ago. Now they have polls where 84% believe the government's lying about 9/11. And then it comes out they have been lying about 9/11 the whole time. They say it's crazy that the government can carry out an attack like that. It's too complex. It's too big. But guys in a cave, now they can do it. And then you go through all the evidence. So think about all the people that have gone public. German defense ministers and an Italian president and high-level members of the Japanese parliament, and Willie Nelson, and Charlie Sheen, and, of course, Governor Ventura, and the best actress this year, 2008, and hundreds of scientists, and engineers, and architects, more and more. And then they publish in prestigious scientific journals, and are proving that the buildings were blown up. And at every point, the debunkers say, you don't have any scientists, so they give them all these scientists. Well, you don't have any engineers, give them all these engineers. Well, you don't have any physicists, give them all these physicists. Well, you don't have any papers scientifically showing it. Here are the papers. Well, they're not peer-reviewed. Here, they're in all these peer-reviewed prestigious journals. Well, you don't have any eyewitnesses, and all these videos of firemen and police going, they said get back, they're about to blow it. And then BBC and CNN all at the same time say the exact same thing. Building 7, Sullivan Brothers, fell completely, a total collapse, and its own footprint. They look behind them and it's still standing. And thousands of things, on and on. And even young aides in the bunker with Cheney under the White House going, it's 50 miles out. And comes back, it's 20 miles out, it's 10 miles out. Does the order still stand? Of course it still stands. And we know what that order was. That order was a stand-down order. 2 months before, Dick Cheney took the power from the generals and the admirals and their designates. They'd always had it since World War II, had it since NORAD was set up in '57. They took it away and said, you can't shoot planes down anymore. I have to give the order. 2 months before, they were taking the levers out of the control of the Air Force and the Army. How much more obvious does this have to get? So here we are 7 years later. Almost 7 years later. And there are all these prominent scientists and people coming forward, all these famous people. And people say, well, who cares